I guess it must be a heavy dinner night tonight because shach crowd. All right. Okay, so
I'll make up for it.
there you go.
Oh, yeah. Let me
Yeah.
stop. Jacob, maybe you can make the 9:15, Myra. We get going here.
What are you talking about? Zevi's going to be asleep in 2 minutes.
Yeah. Anyways, let's go because it's not this the night stuff. Tomorrow's night stuff is not a hard stuff. Tomorrow I have 3 chasanas, so at some point in the middle there, we're gonna have the daf somewhere somehow. Might be a little delayed in either direction. Well, delayed in one direction, maybe made earlier, depending on how they're running. I guess I'll let the olam know. Anyway, so we're on Lamed Dalet Amud Aleph. We're 6 lines down from the bottom, and we're talking about sending tonight's daf. Most of tonight's daf is going to be discussing where yesterday's daf was that the husband takes back the get. He sends the get with a shliach, and then he sends another shliach or himself and takes it back. Tonight's daf is going to be where he doesn't explicitly express that he's going to take back the get, but he infers it. The question is, do we go with that or not? So Gidul bar Re'iloi. So that was her name. That was his name. Shadar la Gita Litvisu. He sent the get to his wife. Also shlicha ashkere to have a yasser navla. So the shliach came and found her that she was navla. She was sewing or weaving. Amrla hagita. Here's your get. Amrle. She said to him, Zil hashta. I'm sorry, Zil hashtamiya v'talamacha. Go now and come back tomorrow. Meaning I'm too busy to take the get from you. So he went back to the shliach. Went back to Gidul bar Re'iloi. And he told him this. So pasach v'amar. So he said, Baruch hatay v'ametiv. Blessed is the that's a bracha you make when you're extremely happy, is toiv and meitiv, right? So now, when he was happy that his wife didn't take the get, does that mean that that's an official retraction of the get or not? Abaya Amar Baruch Hatov Meitiv v'loy batul gita. He's Baruch Hatov Meitiv, but the get is not batul, right? And if the get and the shliach goes back to the next day and gives her the get, then the get is kosher. Rava Amar Baruch Hatov Meitiv batul gita. He said Baruch Hatov Meitiv means he was very happy and he was mavatal the get. So what's the pshat in this Machlokes? This is a classic Machlokes Abaya and Rava. Right, so what's the Machlokes? It's by Gilui Das, where the literal translation is he reveals his das by a get. Meaning he clearly is showing that he does not want this get to go through to the wife. Because he said, Baruch Hatov Meitiv. The Abaya savar Gilui Daita Begita La Milsi. Abaya says it's nothing, and the get remains. Rava savar Gilui Daita Begita Milsi, and Rava says Gilui Das Baget is something, and therefore, since he was megala that he doesn't want it, so therefore it's gone. Right? So that's the Machlokes Abaya and Rava. So Amar Rava, how do I know? Rav Sheshes Ashkale Gita Lahu Gavar Baal Karche. Rav Sheshes gave a get, didn't give a get, but he shakel means he took a get from a person by force. And he told, and then the husband, meaning Rav Sheshes, went and forced this guy to write a get. Then the guy said, and then he told the witnesses on the get, he said, Rav Sheshes said to be mevatel the get. When Rav Sheshes heard that this is what the husband told the Eidim, he said, you got to write a new get, because clearly he retracted the get. Right? Now, he never said he wants the get to be batel. Right? He never said that. He just said, Rav Sheshes said, take back the get. So clearly he's not happy with the get. So therefore, Rav Sheshes said you need a new get. So the get is batel. So that's how Rava knows that Gilui das by get is something, and therefore the get's not a get. Abaya. And what about Abaya? Was Rav Sheshes the type of person to be able to be mavatal people's gittin? Right? Meaning what? It's not the guy wrote a get. Good, Rav Sheshes arranged a get. But that doesn't mean if Rav Sheshes arranged a get, that doesn't mean that Rav Sheshes can be mavatal the get. That's up to the husband. Right? So Abaya is saying, what do you want to say, Rava? That from Rav Sheshes making them have a new get, it's coming from the power of Sheshes. He doesn't have the power to do that. All right. So what happened? Ihu Batla. What happened was the husband was mevatalit. And the reason why he said Rav Sheshes was mevatalit is mishum depani. Right? Because of the people that were going to force him, they were going to beat him again. Right? Basically, they pulled the get out of him by force. I don't know if that means that they beat him, right? But Rashi says they beat him, right? So they beat him to give the get. But then they beat him. He gave the get, and then before it got to the wife's hands, he backtracked on it. But he didn't want to say that he's the one backtracking on it, because if he would do that, they'd beat him up again. So instead, what he said was that Rav Sheshes backtracked on the get. Right? Fine. Abaya. Then Abaya said, "Mino aminullah to Rav Yehuda, amero aminullah." And how do I know? Meaning, how does Abaya know that an inference of a get doesn't work? Meaning that if it's mashma that he doesn't want to get, then it doesn't work. So the Rav Yehuda ashkali gitu l'chasei the Rav Yirmiyah bira. Rav Yehuda also, he forced the get out of the son-in-law of Rav Yirmiyah bira ubatle, and then the husband who they forced to give the get was mevatalit. Right? Tana ashkali. Tana doesn't mean they learned. Tana ashkali means they did it a second time. So meaning what happened was they forced the guy to give the get. He gave it, and then he backtracked. So then they did it again. Tana, Ashkale, they went and they made him give a get again. Ubatle, and Imavatle. Hadar Tana, Ashkale, Al Karche. Then they went and they forced him to give the get. Varmalahula Sadi, and Yehuda told the Adam, Isuve Karebu Naichu Ksubale. When you're writing the get, stick, what do you call it? Like cucumbers or gourds into your ears so that you cannot hear him be mevatalit. Right? A fascinating thing. He tells him this guy's going to be chayzer on the get because he did it already the first two times. Right? There's a whole cat and mouse game going on over here. They're forcing the guy to write a get, and every time he writes it, he then backs out. Right? So here, this third time, Rabbi Yehuda told them, put earplugs in. I mean, they didn't have earplugs back then, but I guess gourds was the next best thing. Put it into your ears. Like this, you will not hear the husband backtrack, and therefore the get's going to be good. Okay, so what do we want to prove from this? And if you say that just showing, just revealing your das, that you don't want to get is something, but they're going to see, the Adam are going to see the husband running after them. Right? They're going to see him running after them that he wants to move out to the get. So why is that not Gilui Das? Elamai. We don't care about Gilui Das. Right? Yeah? Fine. So for rava, yeah, so that's right. So that's Abaya's proof. So you clearly see that Gilui Das is nothing. Because otherwise, what's sticking things in the ear is going to help. You see that the husband wants to take back the get. That should be enough. You go ahead, Gershon.
Does this prove that if a tree falls in a forest with no one around, it doesn't make a noise?
Why are you saying
He's
that?
running after them. He's being mevatel just because they can't hear it. That's just Gilui Das. He's being mevatel the get.
Yeah, but they're saying that as long as the Adam didn't hear it, right? As long as the Adam didn't hear it.
Why does that help?
Well, that's
they're
exactly
the ones delivering it. It's too late.
That's the
Once they have it, it's too late.
Isn't that
Only
the
if
Gemara's
they don't
proof?
hear it.
Correct. They're on the mission. The mission is still a
Right.
go until they hear differently. The missile's going. It's going to explode until it gets the directions not. Doesn't
Yeah, but
matter that the
Mecha
guy's
Tesa-
commanding it, saying, don't explode, don't explode. Too late. Until it gets that, until it receives that message, it's going to explode. That's what happens.
Still a big chiddush that the takana and gamliel would work this way. You could bedafka go ahead and use the takana, just not to hear it. You know what he's saying. He's running after you. He's being mevatel the get. But the Raisa it works. The takana and gamliel was that if all of them don't hear it, it doesn't work. That means if he doesn't say it to them, that's what Rav Gamliel said. Now we're saying,
So isn't it
it's
similar
not
to
just
we had him across the ocean? We're screaming across the ocean. It doesn't matter.
because then he's not telling them. Here he's telling
Yeah,
them.
across the
They're
river
just-
about being back. That's right.
because physically he can't reach them. Here he's there telling them, and they're doing something to stop that. The takana is going to work
They
now
physically can't hear it.
because they're doing something to stop it. Who said Rav
What's the
Gamliel works
difference?
in that case?
What's the difference?
Because Rav Gamliel made a takana that if he doesn't tell them, what was the takana? If they don't hear it or he doesn't tell them?
Well,
Takana was if he doesn't tell them. Here he's telling them. They're going out of their way to make the takana Rav Gamliel work. How does that work? Meichatesi.
I'm saying it's a good. You're saying a good point, Gershon. But at the end of the day, one thing you can prove for sure is that this guy clearly wants to take back the get.
Yeah, but it's
Right?
worse if it doesn't work here. It's not because Igloi Daite.
Right.
Here it's worse than Igloi Daite.
Well, I don't know. I'm saying it's worse, but okay, I hear. But anyways, but that's Abaya's raya. That clearly putting in earplugs is enough to make it that the Adam don't hear, and they'll just give the get. Basically, they're saying, don't ask, don't tell, and just go about your business. Even though they see that the guy clearly wants to take back the get. Okay, what's Rava going to do with this proof? For Rava, Rava says that the husband is running after them after he gives them the get. Ashur havu la be, what do you call it? Ashur means to be mechazik yourself. Rashi says, strengthen yourself and make sure you give the get to her haya like fast. So that it should finish the pain of that person, because they were forcing him to give the get. So basically, he was running after them and says, these guys are down my back, so you better make sure you give that get quick. Meaning what Rav is saying is that we don't have any proof from the husband running after them, after the Adam, that it means that there's no get going on over here, because that he doesn't want to get there, because maybe he's doing it fakert. He's running after them to make sure that they give the get. Fine, by the Ramar Abaya. We know Amin Allah, right? So where do I know it from? Meaning another raya where Abaya knows that hinting to the get is meaningless, though, meaning hinting to reversal of the get is meaningless. Daud Amalahu, right? Because there was a guy who said, he said, if I don't come for 30 days, then it's going to be a get, right? We had this a few times, right? He's making get out tonight. Also, pasken Abaya, and he came, and there was the water in between, and the boat stopped, so he couldn't get across the water. And he's on the other side of the water. Again, it's the 30th day. He's got to get there before Shkia, let's say, right? And he really would be there, except that the boat is broken. So he's screaming from the other side that I'm here. That's not called coming. And therefore, we said Ein Einis Begittin, right? So therefore, he didn't show up, so the get is a good get. So what do you see from this? He clearly wants to take back the get, right? He's screaming and yelling from the other side of the river that he's coming. That means he doesn't want this get to be a good get. Why is it not bottled just from that? So it must be that Gilui Das, just being Megalad, you don't want it to be a get, is not good. So it seems to be a pretty strong raya to Abaya. For Rava, and Rava says, no, it's not a raya. Atu hasam levatula gita boy. He doesn't want to be mevatel to get. Hasam lekiyume tanaka boy. What he's trying to do is he's trying to be makayim his tanai. And he was not, because he didn't make it. Meaning he didn't have in mind, he knew that the get was going to be a good get. That's why he was trying so desperately to get across the water. And he was screaming that he didn't get across the water. Right? So that means he wasn't planning on being mevatel to get. He really wanted to get to be kosher, which is why he's screaming that he should be considered that he came. Yeah, so those Abaya's two rayas, and Rava has his own explanation of those rayas. Fine. So we have another story here. There was this guy that said to the Eidim, Eloi Nasivna Atzlasin Yaimin, if I don't get married to this woman within 30 days, Lavigita, then she's going to be divorced. I mean, he gets engaged. Then he says, and he wants to make sure he makes this wedding quick. So he says, I'm going to make this wedding within 30 days. And if I don't, then she's divorced. So Kimatu Tlasin, when it came to the 30th day, I'm busy with the wedding. Right? It's meaning don't let the divorce go through because I'm an einus. So lamai nechashla. So what's the chashash here? Meaning, is this a get? Is it not a get? Imishum einsa. If we're going to say that it's not a good get, because he's an einus, the reason why he was busy with preparing the chasana, so he didn't have time to actually get married. Ain't einus begitten. We said that there's no such thing as einus begitten. And imishum gili daita. If it's because he's megaladas, begita, he was megaladas that he really doesn't want to get. Plukta Abaya rava. It's a Machlokes Abaya and rava, and we know that we pasken like Abaya. So what's the tzad that the lady shouldn't be divorced? Okay, so the Gemara clearly seems to be siding with Abaya, which we'll see at the end of the Amud. Another case, there was a guy who said to the Eidim, Eloi Nesivna l'reish yarcha da'adar. If I don't marry her by Rosh Chodesh Adar, Reish Yarcha means the beginning of the month of Adar, then let her be divorced. Kimot the Reish Yarcha the Adar, when it became Rosh Chodesh Adar, Amalu another Reish Yarcha the Nisan Amri. I really said Nisan, I didn't say Adar. Right, so again an einus. So is she divorced or not? Again, he had said Adar, but then he said he meant Nisan. So is he divorced or not? So what's the chashash? If it's because he was an einus, because he thought he had till Nisan, and he really only had to Adar, ain't einus begitten. We said there's no such thing as einus begitten, and therefore she is divorced. And imishum gilui daita. And if you say that, it's a gilui das, and he doesn't want her to be divorced, otherwise why would he be complaining? Plukta Abaya rava. It's a Machlokes Abaya and rava, and we know that we pasken like Abaya. So therefore, the Gemara is clearly saying that the Gemara is clearly angling that gilui das on a get is no good. The Hilchasa and the halacha is kenachman. The Hilchasa kenachman. Right? There's two places that we just had Rav Nachman over the last block. We had two psakim from Rav Nachman. The first one is that as long as he's mevatel to get in front of two eidim, he doesn't have to be mevatel in front of everybody. And the second one was that the halacha is like Rebbe in both cases, right? From yesterday's daf, both cases meaning that you don't need to be mevatel in front of the whole crowd, right? And what was the other one? It's slipping my mind now. What was the other Rebbe? Oh, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't. No, they don't all have to be there. They don't all have to be there, right? Okay. So, anyways, so Allah is like both of those Rav Nachman's. Vehilchasan onto the beis now. Nechmini, the halach is like Nechmini. Nechmini is a nickname for Abaya, right? So first things is why? Because this is the one we call the Yal Kigams. Normally, the halach is like rava, except by the Yal Kigams. This is the gimel of the Yal Kigam. Gimel meaning Gilui Das by get. Right, so therefore, we know here that we pass on like Abaya. Now, what's this?
I feel like we haven't had that in a long time.
What? Yal Kigam, correct. Right? Yeah. So this is the gimel. It's a hard one.
It's only 6 times in Shas, right?
Well, it's 6, yeah, but it comes up more. I'm saying, yeah. Fine.
It comes up so often that
Not
Aaron's
often,
is like
but it comes
surprised.
up.
Right.
It comes up. So now, why was he called
I'm
Nechmini?
telling you my vast knowledge of Shas, yes.
There you go. So why is he called Nechmini? So Rashi says, because Rabba ben Nechmini, who is otherwise known as Rabba, brought up Abaya, right? Because Abaya lost his parents when he was young. And he taught him Torah. So Memela, he took on the name of Rabba's father, who was Nechmini. Right? Now, if you look at the Gilyon Hashas, Rabbi Kiva here on the left side, it's very interesting Gilyon Hashas here. See it, Gilyon Hashas, on my side, on my Gemara, it's on the left. So it says, Uba Aruch, Erech Abaya in the Aruch, which is like an encyclopedia, right? And under the section of Abaya, he was known as Nechmini, bar Achua, the Rava bar Nechmini. He was the son of the brother of Rava bar Nechmini, the Talmidah, and his Talmidim. V'kivan dehava shmei Nechmini, kishem avua the Rava bar Nechmini, since the name was Nechmini, like the father of Rava Nechmini, lo yavakari le b'chol shon Nechmini. He didn't call him Nechmini because then he was calling calling Abaya by his father's name. I think that's what he means. Abaya b'lashon Aramis in Aramaic, Adam shekara Avi v'salik le Abaya, but he don't want to say father, so he called him Abaya. Right? It's a little bit of an interesting historical fact according to the Aruch. Right? Again, according to Rabbi Kiva, it sounds a little bit different than Rashi. Rashi says Rabbi Nechmini brought him up. Kiva is saying no, he was his nephew, and his last name was Nechmini. Right? But Rabba did not want to call him Nechmini because that was his father's name. So therefore he called him Abaya, which is like Av, with a Yud at the end. So that's the history, according to the Aruch. That's the history of why Abaya was called Abaya. Right?
Isn't there a Makar somewhere that says Abaya because his Rosh Hashanah Asher B'cha Yerucham Yosim?
Yes, they bring that here
Yeah.
in the article.
I thought that was a Rashi in Baba Kama.
He brings it from the Chassam Sofer, citing Sefer HaYuchsin.
Oh, Sefer Yosim. Okay.
Well, that ain't a Rashi above a comma.
Not even close.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, so that's halacha like that. Now the Gemara goes on a tangent here. Well, not yet. First, we continue with Rabbi Gamliel. Right? We've been discussing the last couple of Mishnayos. Rabbi Gamliel's takanas to make for tikun olam, to make sure that Gittin are written properly. So now we have another one. Zog the Mishnah v'rishayna yemeshana shma yushma. In the beginning, they would literally means what they would do is they would change his name and change her name. Meaning when they had two names, like let's say in one country they went by one name, in another country they went by another name, right? Then they just changed the name based on whatever country they're writing the get, and they didn't do anything more than that, right? So they used to do it the way it was in whatever city they were in. Shem Iroi, and the name of the city and the name of her city.
Jacob, why not put both just to be safe?
What do you mean? Flip?
Put both names when they travel. It's still how.
Seems like the name originally they just needed the name. Then they needed a name of a city, and that would suffice. Any name of the city that they could possibly be in or call is what it is, right? And the same thing with the names. Then Hiskim of Gamliel Zaken, was Masakin she of Ish Pliny Vichol Shum Sheyesh Loi. He would have to write in the get that whatever the man's name was and any name that he had. Isha Plainis Vichol Shum Sheyesh Loi. And this woman and any name that she has. Right? Meaning you have to basically put in nicknames and these type of things. Why? Tikun olam, because of tikun olam, right? What's the tikun olam? Because if you don't put in all the names, people are going to say, that's not your get. We don't know you as that name. Right? So therefore, it's not a problem. I mean, therefore, gamliel did it so that it should not be a problem.
Aren't you putting the parent's name also? Zev ben Shol? No.
I'm assuming so.
So then why?
He's saying that's enough.
No.
I don't know. We had before that you could have people the same names.
Whenever we were discussing it, we never mentioned the father's name. We were always saying the first name is the same, but we never ever mentioned the father's name.
No, what do you mean? We had that.
No, we did. We
the
did. We
same name.
discussed that the Rebbes have the same. There's a bunch of Menachem Mendel, whoever he was named after. There's a bunch of Tabrav, Yaelish, then whoever Yaelish was named after.
Right, we have that in the family. We have that a lot. Simcha
What do you mean?
ben we got twice.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, right. We said, what was the name of the example? What was the name the Gemara used a few blot ago?
Yitzchak Yisrael?
No,
Yosef ben Shimon.
Yosef ben Shimon, yeah. Yosef ben Shimon.
I understand, even with the father's name, it's still the same issue. If the town that she's in is going to say, you were never married to this guy, this is not your get, because your husband wasn't Yosef ben Shimon, he was Jack. You have the same issue.
Well,
Doesn't help
yeah.
with fathers on it.
So what do you so Gershon? So
Listen.
if the guy's name's Yosef in New York and it's Jack in Florida, so we write on the get Yosef in the Yosef who's called New York and
Jack.
Yeah.
Don't have to say where he's called what.
You just
have
call.
to
You
write
just give him
everything
all
that
his
he's
names.
called.
Right.
then
Give him all his-
I don't know if I didn't know the name Jack, I would think it's a different guy.
No, but it's not going to be
No.
ma'ak. I mean, you're saying it's going to work worse if you give him extra names that people don't know who it is. They're going to say,
Yeah,
"Oh,
well, yeah. How am I
That's
gonna
what you're
know?
saying.
How am I gonna? You got your. My name's Zev Jack, and nobody knows me as Jack. They only know me as Jack in Florida,
so
right?
they're going to think that that's not the get."
That's not the get. It's not
Or you have a work name. You have a work name, and you have your English name as your work name, and then in your way when you're home, it's your Jewish name, your Hebrew name. That's very common.
Then when you give the get, how you gonna know, guys?
I don't understand the question. It says, I don't want to use people's names here, but Reuven ben Shimon, let's say, right?
Right. And
Reuven ben Shimon, and his name is Robbie in Florida.
right.
Right? So you write Reuven ben Shimon, Hamachune Rabbi. We know in New York he's called Reuven. We're not going to ask because he's called Rabbi somewhere else.
No, but
if you don't know.
If you go to two Adim in New York, Reuven Rabbi, who's Reuven Rabbi? I don't know who Rabbi
It doesn't
is.
say Reuven Rabbi. It says Reuven Hamachune Rabbi.
No, but
Reuven,
even
who is
so, he's
also
going to say,
called
"We
Rabbi.
doesn't know this." He's going to say he doesn't know this guy's name is Rabbi.
He doesn't have to. He knows he's Reuven.
I know, but maybe Reuven Rabbi is a different guy.
Right.
There is no Reuven Rabbi. There is
Why?
no Reuven. Because he's not called. If he's called that, then you write that also.
No,
Reuven
what he's
Hamachune
saying,
Rabbi,
Gershon.
Reuven Rabbi.
Gershon,
Who's on
no,
first?
he's saying you're mixing up things. He's saying if it says Ruvain Mechuna Rabbi and you only know him as Ruvain, you're gonna go figure maybe it's not him. I never heard him as Mechuna Rabbi. I never heard him as another name Rabbi.
Why would I?
What do you mean?
No.
Yeah,
Everyone
I know
knows
him. I know him as
Hello.
Gershon. I never heard him and never heard him as Jack.
Because I don't know something.
I wouldn't know that you. I wouldn't know 100%. I
No,
would think they were
that's
talking about a
a
different
shame.
Gershon
He's
Russell.
not here.
What are you talking
I would
about?
think 100%. If someone told me
You
Gershon,
probably have a work name. If I called you
Gershon
someone,
that people call him Jack Russell, I'll go, it's a different guy.
what?
I disagree.
What are you saying?
No. By the way, it's a shame if Aaron's not here because there's a great Goodfellas reference here. You know, AKA Tony the Figs.
Yes, I wish he was here.
He would have such a good time with this.
All right. I'll send him. The recording.
No one has to see the get and say, I know all the names.
The Adim have to.
No, they don't. They don't have to know who it's talking about. They know who it's talking
So
about.
who's
when it's written.
Robbie? Who's
They're
Robbie?
there.
Debbie, I
Zev,
showed the Aiden
The
my
Adim
driver's
is there when
license.
it's written.
I showed the Aiden my driver's license. That was good enough.
No, I'm saying, but a guy comes to a kid and says, "You're a mamzer." Says, "Why?" Because the get that your mother showed me is not from your father. It's from somebody else. Why? Did you ever know that your father went with the name with Robbie? The kid says, I never heard that he went with Robbie. He didn't know that overseas his father went with Robbie, right? And the guy says, you see, this is not your father's get. Your mother ripped the get off somebody else.
What the kid is gonna say? I learned something new today. So my father was called Robbie.
Really? They call him in the Philippines, Robbie.
One second. So Yaakov, I got a very good one for you. Very easy and brought to home. What does everybody back in the day call my father?
Everybody where?
Back in the day calls him what?
Jeffrey.
Jeff.
Jeffrey.
Right. Yeah, and a Hanami.
I call him LBJ.
Right. The parents, we know that.
Right, you probably call him a lot of other things too, but that's
Right.
Is it? Tiago,
Yeah,
is
But
this
I
why
don't think we're gonna say those while it's recording.
Is this why Lamaisa they destroy the get?
Is that why they destroy the get?
Yeah, I'm saying based on this conversation, is that why they Lamaisa
I don't
don't
know.
give out the get?
I don't know.
So
Forget it, Elio. How you even going to confirm it in Bedlam? Who is this guy, Robbie?
No, because what they do today is the
What?
Beis
No.
writes a letter, and then no one ever sees the get after they send the letter.
Right, they
They
cut it
leave
out.
it.
they
Right.
put some cuts in it with like a razor blade, like an X-Acto knife, and they put it in a file.
Right. No, so I'm asking, is that why? Because people have these conversations about whose name is what.
I don't know. Okay, I hear you, Zev. Some of the olam doesn't hear. Some of them
Eliyahu,
do.
you think most people have crazy conversations like what's going on here, though?
Maybe I was by a get by Ramnata. The guy listed off 12 names that he wrote down there. The guy kept on going. We were
Yo,
cracking
come
up.
on. We understand this. How many LLCs do we have?
Jimmy the hand, yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, okay. So, but that's what Rabbi Gamliel was massacre. That you got to put.
Is it a taina or it's just not?
I
a
hear you, Taina. But that whatever that's worth. Yeah.
I don't hear it, Zev.
All right. Okay. Zog the Gemara. Am Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Shalchu le b'nei Medina sayam Rabbi Gamliel. The people from overseas sent Rabbi Gamliel. B'nei Adam Abaya misham lekan. People that are coming from Eretz Yisrael to here. Meaning, and they take different names on. Shema Yosef, currently Yochanan. His name is Yosef. They call him Yochanan. Yochanan, currently Yosef. Or it's Yochanan, they call him Yosef. Hech Megashin is the same. How do they divorce their wives? Right? So, meaning because they're not going to know. So, you got to write Ish Pliny and all his names. Isha Pliny is v'chol shum sheyeshla, and any name. Tikun olam, because of tikun olam, so that they should know that it includes all names, right? Any name that the guy could possibly have, you put it in there. Amar Ravashi, but for who does chazik betray shmi? You have to have a chazaka. I don't know if it means chazaka mamish, but meaning it has to be that the two names have some sort of validity to it, right? Meaning it has to be that the people know that there's a name. You can't just say guy like what sounds like what Elio saw by Reb Nata. The guy just comes in. I said this name, that name. Then what are you talking about? Just the names that you're known by. Yeah. So Amalei Rabbi Ravashi, Rabbi Mari, Rabbi Lazar, Kaimi Kavasach, Rabbi Mari, Rabbi Lazar, both say like you that that has to be that Itafka has that it's a known. I don't know if known is the right way to teach it, but it has to be that there's some sort of establishment of two names. Tani comes to the Rashi. We have a beis like Rashi. The guy had two wives. Achas beYehuda, Achas beGol. He had one in Yehuda and one in Gol. And he had two names. Echad beYehuda, Echad beGolos. This guy sounds like a real character, right? He's got one wife in one country, another wife in another country. He's got multiple names. A real cheverman. The Girish is Ishtay Yehuda, and he divorced his wife that was in Yehuda b'shmai Yehuda with the name that he was called in Yehuda. And the wife that was in the Galil, he divorced with the name that he used in Galil. So she's not divorced. If he's divorcing the wife in Yehuda, he needs to use the name that he uses in Yehuda and in Galil. And the wife in Galil, he needs to use both names, one from Galil, one from Yehuda. If he went to another place, meaning he went to a third country, and he divorced his wife with one of the names, then migureshes, she's divorced. So the Gemara says, "Va'amrit, shame the galul ima." You need to have the name of galul with it. So how come if he goes to a third country that didn't know exactly which name he uses, how come you just use one name? Meaning in Yehuda and Galil, you needed to use both names because it was well known in those countries that this guy goes with two names. When he's in Yehuda, he goes with one name. When he's in Galil, he goes with another name. When he goes to China, to some third country, nobody there knows which name he's supposed to use. They just know him from one name, so that's it. So then all you have to do is write one name. So we see from this, or we hear from this, that it's the only time you have to write both names is when it's well established that the guy goes with two names. Miriam. So there was a lady whose name was Miriam, Upurta Sarah, but some people called her Sarah. So Amri Nardai said Miriam b'chol shum sheyeshla. Right? You have to write Miriam in the get. You have to write it's Miriam and any name that she has. V'loy Sarah b'chol shum sheyeshla. But you can't write in the get. It's Sarah and any other name. Right? Meaning the main name has to be the name that most people go with. Right? Yeah. So Mamela, that's what Gemara is saying. Again, she has a name that's the popular name, then she has a minority name. So what you do is you write the main writing is that her name is the main name, and then you can write other names with it, but you don't write the agav, the name that the people don't necessarily use.
It's not so far-fetched to do it legally today. Anytime you do something legal, you do all the entities and all the subsidiaries associated with it.
Yeah, well, you have like that way. Yes, you have. Let's say a guy has a Jewish name and he has on his passport another name, right, and his license he put a different name.
2 email addresses with different names.
There you go. Right.
No, so I'm saying on today's Gittin, that's what they do.
I don't know if they still allow this, but in California, you used to be able to put any first name you wanted on your driver's license, regardless of what your legal name was, by the way. I know I did that when I was younger.
Is that so?
Okay. Now the airlines, I saw Dan posted, if you want an extra seat, you put your first name extra seat and last name Stein. And like this, you can get the seat next to you.
What birthday?
That you have to put that the first name, you put extra seat, and the last name is Stein.
Okay. Interesting. Does that mean now if the guy gets divorced, he has to put extra seat down in his get? Ask Dan. Post it.
The empty seat. It's for the empty seat next to you. It's to keep the seat next to you empty.
I understand, but maybe that's the name that he's going with. The airlines.
Well, that's exactly what he's trying to do now.
Okay, so that's why you have 12 names by Rav Natas. That's all great.
So today they do all these. They add all these names.
As far as I know, I don't think people have that many names, but I think so.
Tiago, I have Rafal Chaim Simcha B'Yamin. His English name is Rafi.
Okay, let's hope he doesn't need it.
No, I'm just saying.
I got the same thing. I got the same thing. I don't have Rafi. I got Benjamin.
Right. You know, you don't want to sit there in the doctor's office saying Rafal Chaim Simcha B'Yamin.
I did it only because I felt bad every time he's got to go to the DMV. Those push fights says, "What do you call me?"
I think mine is Simcha. No, mine is Raphael. Mine is Raphael.
And I think I think Aaron Eliezer, isn't your brother's English name Sam?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, okay.
Does this answer your original kasha? Only if it's Chazik Shema?
No, Zevi doesn't get the extra seat.
You know where this is from?
Okay, let's do a little bit
No,
more.
When the Gemara says this is it's only necessary when it's chazik shma. People know that he's called both names.
No, okay, but let's say she did.
No, but he was asking if no one knows, then then it's going to confuse people, right? I'm trying to figure out if I got his kasha right. Was that your question? If people don't know the other name, then it's going to confuse even more people. So this is what it's about. This is this Gemara. You only write it if people know.
I don't know parameters. I know that it's a major hak. It's a major hak, exactly, this whole din of names, when the names, what the names. Okay, let's see a little weiter. Ein almana nefras. Now this part is again takonos of gamliel for tikun olam, but it's not has nothing to do with gittin. Ein almana nefras v'nichsa yisayim el b'shvua.
Yeah, we had it last week by the kesuba. The guy that spelled his second name Eliezer wrong. That would have been an issue. Remember that?
Yes, that would have been an issue. It was a mazel that we made him write it first for practice because he didn't want to practice.
Right.
We had to write the whole kesuba again. Yes. Right. The guy's name was Eliezer, and he spelled it with an ayin.
Right.
Eliezer. He didn't want to practice his name. We were looking at him. He says,
"That's not the Yiddish way."
That was like, you sure you write your name Eliezer with an ayin? He says, yeah. Then he stops. He says, oh, no. It's with an aleph. It's like, sheesh. Baruch Hashem, I got that trick from Rabbi Yeager. Rabbi Yeager makes the Eidim write their names first on a blank piece of paper just to practice. So, anyways.
It's a smart move.
Sure is. Okay. So Zok the Mishna. So now basically the way it works is when a man dies, right? When a man dies, so then his wife, his dalmana that's the kesuba money, right? But let's say there's Yisayimim there. So she has to get her kesuba, she's taking money from Yisayimim. So the halacha is that she can't take the money from Yisayimim unless she makes a shavua that her husband never gave her money. Because the husband could theoretically prepay. The guy's dying and he says, I don't want the wife to have any issues with the Yarshim giving her money or not. So he prepays her kesuba. So she has to make a shavua that she never got any money. And if she doesn't make the shavua, then she does not get the kesuba money. Then nimnu milashbiyan. And then what? Milashbiyan. Then they stopped. We'll see in the Gemara that people stopped making shavuos. The beis stopped from people making shavuos because they were getting into too much trouble, making false shavuos, etc., etc. So they stopped people making shavuos. So therefore, almanas were not getting their kesuba money because they didn't allow shavuos anymore. So his gamliel azaka and shetei nedarim the yisayim kol ma sheyirtzu v'goy v'ksubasa. So he did a legal loophole. He said, good, she's not going to make a shavua because they don't want her making shavuos. But what we're going to do is we're going to make her make a neder, which Rashi says basically she makes a neder that if I'm not saying the truth, that my husband never gave me money, then I'm never eating again, which obviously she's going to have to make sure she's saying this correctly because she has to eat to stay alive. So she's not going to make this neder and lie with it because then she's going to be over on a neder. So that's almost the equivalent of a shvua, but it's not an actual shvua. So that was when gamliel's takana in order to enable almanas to be able to get the kesuba. So Eidim chaisman ala get tikun olam, and Eidim. Another thing Rabbi Gamliel says that Eidim have to actually sign on a get because of tikun olam, which we're going to see in the Gemara. The Hillel hiskin pruzbul and tikun olam. Hillel was masakin a pruzbul right at the end of Shemitah, right? Because the loans don't have to be paid back after Shemitah, so people were stopping to lend money around Shemitah time. So that was a problem because the economy was getting stalled. So Hillel was masakin that you do a pruzbul, and which is basically you hand over the loan to beis din, and therefore then the loans have to be paid back. So that's basically three takanas that went on here: two from Rabbi Gamliel, one from Hillel. So Gemara says, "My area."
The middle one's from Rabbi Gamliel.
What?
The middle one is from Rabbi Gamliel.
I thought so. Yeah, Rashi says it was Gamliel. Eidim Chaisman. Rashi says Eidim Chaisman alaget. So Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Gamliel is talking.
Oh, Tosfos is chaluk. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, right. So that's what do you call it? Right. So those are the three takonas in the Mishnah. Yeah. Fine. So Zog the Gemara, my year almana, well, frack the Gemara, my year almana, afilu kule almanami. It's not only an almana. Anybody who wants to take money from Yisayim has to make a shvuah. Anybody who wants to get paid from the nechasim Yisayim, meaning these Yisayim, these orphans, yarshin money from their father, and now their father owed somebody money, so somebody wants to come take the payment from the Yassim, he has to make a shvuah. Lo yifra, lo yifara, ella, shvuah. He only has to go with a shvuah. So why are you just saying an almana? Anybody needs to make a shvuah in order to take money from Yisayim. Almana, the Gemara answers, almana it's richalei. No, you need to tell Yechidish by Amana. Because of Chain, to make her like Bachaint, to make her Bachaint in Shidduchim, right? That the men should be attracted to the wives, so meaning to the women that they should be married. So you would think Akilu Rabbanon Gaba, meaning the Rabbanon were more makel, meaning if a woman, why would a woman go into a marriage if she knows that the kesuba she won't be able to collect unless she makes a shavua now, right? So why would maybe almana you wouldn't make her make a shavua? Kamash Malan, that we do make her make a shavua. If she wants to get her money, then she has to make a shavua. Right? Okay, we'll stop over here again tomorrow. Tomorrow night it should be be'erech on time, but there are a few chasanas, so I'll post it if I'm running.